This program has been made possible in part by the following sponsors. The Trial Lawyers Association of BC. The Vancouver Courier newspaper. My new book about addictions, All the Way Home, Building Recovery That Works. Well, I don't often share these intimacies with the television audience, but I thought I'd start this program by just revealing a couple of the favorite things I keep in my closet. So this first, those are called capri pants, and I don't know if some of you wear them, but I find them, they're very form-fitting. But there's another version that I like that's sort of more windblown. And you know why I like those? Because when you're up on the mountains, especially in weather like this, the wind just blows right through. Do you think that's slightly mad? Yeah, well, Phil Blown, who's one of the guys with North Shore Rescue, he thinks it's quite mad. And less than a week ago, he published on his blog that he was standing there looking at the parking lot of people going up to the mountain. And here are some of the things he saw in this weather, snow and so on. Capri pants, of course, gum boots, cowboy boots, cotton clothes, hoodies, that's really helpful, khakis, lots of jeans, and lots of, fancy leather shoes with soft tread. Doesn't make a lot of sense. We're delighted to have with us today in the studio one of Phil's colleagues, a North Shore firefighter in his other life, but like all the people at North Shore Rescue, a volunteer, Michael DANKS, who's a team leader with North Shore Rescue. Hi, Michael, thanks for coming in. Now, you're the only guest we've ever allowed to keep his cell phone on because you're on 24/7.
Yeah, that's right, and that's very typical of all the search and rescue teams in the province. They're on call 365 days,
Yes.
24 hours a day.
Yeah, and if you got an alert, you put it on silent, thank you. You wouldn't go running out of here screaming. You wouldn't start setting your hair on fire or something.
Yeah, you know what? It really depends on what the call is.
Yes.
So some of the calls can be just a routine call for an ankle fracture, where you can have something that's as serious as a cardiac arrest or a missing child. So you never really know what you're going to get.
When you say that an ankle fracture is routine, really, how routine?
Yeah, well, we get a lot of those happening in the backcountry, and you know what? I think it's par for the course. I mean, people are going out into rough terrain,
yes,
and these things happen, and that's understandable, and that's why we, North Shore Rescue, is a part of this community to help people.
I wonder how many people have the good sense to even do a stretch. Like, I'm a tennis player, so I never go on the tennis court without a stretch, right? Yeah. I've got to, because I'm going to hurt myself anyway.
Yeah.
I've said this, I'll just hurt myself less. I wonder if people, I think we equate walking with hiking like it's the same thing. And they're not even remotely close.
Yeah.
Are they?
No, it's very true. And you know what? I'm guilty of not stretching as well. I think it's, we still think we're younger than we are, really. But I mean, that's a very important thing for people to do, and hopefully that will prevent injuries. So.
Yeah, so let's look at this list that your buddy put on his blog of things you should have, but I don't have to read this. You tell me. I mean, he's got a list: proper winter hiking boots, non-cotton warm socks, non-cotton clothing, poly stuff, parka jacket. You tell me the kinds of things people should have.
Yeah, so we really try to discourage people from wearing cottons because once they get wet, you're not able to generate any heat. But if you're wearing wool or polypro, it'll shed that water and allow you to still rewarm yourself.
Yes.
The footwear, I mean, I think it goes without saying, proper hiking boots will prevent, hopefully, an ankle fracture. But when you're wearing runners and you're in very unstable terrain, you're kind of asking for injury. So
when I moved to Ottawa many years ago to do a TV show there, I saw this ad for Thanksgiving in Vermont, and I thought, well, how romantic is that? So you had your choice of biking or hiking, and I've done lots of bicycling. So I chose the hiking, and the first thing I did, Michael, was I went to a store and bought hiking boots, and I pretty much lived in them for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to get blisters, right?
Yeah.
I would say if I didn't have those hiking boots, I would not have survived the 4 days in those mountains.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have gotten up the first hill.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. I think, you know what, people kind of take it for granted here. We're so close to the city. They can be in the local terrain here so quickly. And I think they think it's just a walk in the park. But as soon as you get off that trail, you're into steep and complex terrain very, very quickly.
Yes. Do you see enough people to cheer you on, enough people who do bring real equipment or crampons and all these fancy gear?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Mountain Co-op must be making money somehow.
Yeah.
They must be doing something right.
Yeah, that's right. And you know what? There's so many people getting out in the backcountry. A lot of them are prepared. And what we're asking people to do is keep an eye out, such as John was, for these people that are unprepared. And do your best to educate them and, just let them know some of the hazards that are out there.
So you have a delicate position, though, because what if you or your buddy, he said he was standing there watching the parking lot fill up. This is a week ago.
Yeah.
Can he go to the parking lot and introduce himself and say, folks, please? Can he do that? Or will people just yell at him and tell him to take off?
Yeah, again, I think it's very situational because, people... they think they know everything, and you know what? That's not what we're all about either. We want to go out and enjoy the mountains just like John was doing that day. But I think the best thing he did was put out that blog post because it got so much media attention.
It did, yeah.
And
got my attention. I thought it was great.
Absolutely, and you know what? That's getting the message out. And then we
Yes.
can talk about why you need to be prepared and what you need to bring with you that will save your life.
Now, I'm assuming, I hadn't thought about this, but I'm assuming that the reason that you're even able to do this work as a volunteer is because you are yourself an experienced hiker or climber.
Yeah, so, and that goes for a lot of the members on our team.
Yes.
Prior to being on the team, we were outdoor enthusiasts. Now, our recreation is going on rescues and doing the training to be prepared for those rescues.
I just want to say how dangerous this really is. Now, this isn't hiking, but the guy who got me into this in Ottawa was a world-class skier, and he had heli-skied all over the world.
Yeah.
And only a few months after I went on that trip to Vermont with him and 30, 40 other people, which was a wonderful experience, he died in the Rockies.
Wow.
He stepped on what appeared to be snow, and it was a crevasse, and he fell 40 feet and broke bones, and nobody could get him out of there. And he was a beautiful guy. And he's so experienced. He knew all the dangers.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I was saying about even the broken ankle. I mean, injuries are going to happen, and it's really unfortunate what happened to your friend. And that's why it's so important that we prepare. Prepare to have a bad day, if you will. So make sure you have the minimum equipment for the terrain you're traveling in that's appropriate to the conditions.
So I can't help but think that this being the age of entitlement, and this being the age where you can't tell anybody, you can't hire a waiter or a waitress and tell them not to use their cell phone when they're working.
Yeah.
Are you finding more people being dumber than? I mean, I know you want to be polite and nice to people, but are you finding a larger incidence of people just not noticing where they are?
I think what it is we have so many people. Again, I keep going back to this, but we have so many tourists that are in Vancouver. The population of Metro Vancouver is increasing, and it's really trendy now to go out and to get fit and enjoy the outdoors. And and as North Shore Rescue, we encourage people to do that. But again, there's always going to be that small amount of people that are completely unprepared, and perhaps maybe they're naive to the dangers out there.
I didn't think about tourists, until you said that. But, if someone comes from the prairies or they come from some country far away that doesn't have the access to this ready opportunity to get in the mountains, they're going to take their cell phones and, I can go up there and take pictures, and won't that be fun?
Yeah.
And they're staying in a hotel room and they don't have
Yeah, that's right. And you know what? November 25th, 2 years ago, was when Tom Billings, a tourist from the UK,
Yes.
was here, and he went to go do the Haynes Valley hike.
Yes.
He was never seen again. Tom was an incredibly fit guy,
Yes.
but he didn't know the terrain, and he wasn't adequately prepared.
Yes.
And unfortunately, he paid the ultimate price for that. A year later in December, Liang Jen, another
Yes.
young man,
Yes.
very fit, went into the Haynes Valley again, and unfortunately he got lost, and he got caught in some very bad weather conditions. So.
But isn't this the same, Michael, as people on the water? I mean, Fit Schmidt, it doesn't
Yeah.
count against Ma Nature.
Yeah.
Mother Nature's going to beat us every time unless even when we're prepared, it's a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why you need to do the research into the hike that you're doing and make sure you know that route and make sure you have adequate shelter and clothing to keep you warm. And I think more importantly, make sure you tell somebody where you're going, what time you're expected back.
And many people don't.
They don't do that at all.
What's the Wi-Fi? Any Wi-Fi up in those hills?
No.
None.
Well, I mean, it really depends.
Yes.
Again, in the Haynes Valley,
Yes.
no, you're not getting any coverage.
Yes.
Back behind Grouse, it's spotty. So what we're trying to stress as North Shore Rescue
Yes.
is have a satellite device because you will get a signal with your satellite device.
Oh.
So it's worth doing the research into, there's a number of different ones out there that give you different options. So that's the...
Are they rentable? Can you rent a satellite device?
I think there's money to be made there.
Okay, boys and girls, just watch for my new satellite, SDDB, Satellite Devices, David Berner. That'll be my new entrepreneurship.
That's perfect.
We just hit on a multi-million-dollar scheme.
I think so.
Wonderful. Okay, can we take a break? I think this is the appropriate time for us to take a little breather. We'll do that, and we'll come back, and we'll be armed with, no, we won't. We'll just be ourselves, but we'll continue this interesting conversation with Michael Danks of North Shore Rescue. Serious business, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go out in the woods today unless you're prepared. Your opportunity to say hello to us at davidberner.com. We always welcome your emails until we don't welcome them. Because sometimes they're horrible. Usually they're wonderful. And also the opportunity for those nice folks who support us to say hello here on Shaw Community Television Cable 4. Back with you in just a moment.
This program has been made possible in part by the following sponsors. The Trial Lawyers Association of BC. The Vancouver Courier newspaper. My new book about addictions, All the Way Home, Building Recovery That Works.
Our guest is Michael Danks. He is one of 40 or 50 volunteers with North Shore Rescue. It is a volunteer organization entirely, and Michael, you can tell us perhaps how you get funded, because operating search and rescue is not cheap. You often use helicopters.
Yes.
You're required to.
Yep.
I mean, you need them to spot people. How do you fund all that? Donations, of course.
Yeah, so we're primarily funded by public donations. We
Yes.
do get some money from provincial gaming. So in the past, we've got $100,000 a year, which is fantastic.
Better than a slap in the belly with a wet fish. But
Yes, it is.
it could be a bit more, yeah.
No, it could, absolutely. From the local municipalities, so that's West Vancouver, North Van District, and North Vancouver City.
Yes.
They give us $70,000 a year. That goes towards some administration, insurance costs, infrastructure, and so on.
Do you and Phil and your fellow colleagues, do you sometimes have to call on that fund to pay for your own equipment, or you bring your own goodies?
Yeah, so how it works, people that join the team need to have all the adequate equipment to go out into the backcountry and be safe. Once they become a member of the team, they're outfitted with survival equipment and safety equipment.
Okay.
So like for winter ops, they get their PEEPS probe and shovel. They're going to get VHF radio, helmet, stuff like that. But they need to have their own jackets, backpack, and crampons and ice axe, all that kind of stuff.
And a bologna sandwich won't cut
Bologna
it.
sandwich, if
You
your
gotta have
wife will make
something.
it. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
But when we are tasked, so North Shore Rescue or any search and rescue team in the province can be tasked by the police, by BC Ambulance, by a local fire department, or by the Department of National Defense or JRCC. Once that happens, we phone the province and we get a task number. When we get that task number, we have liability insurance for our members. We have workers' compensation for them, and they're paid mileage to and from the call, and then they're also paid a meal allowance every 3 hours. And if you damage equipment on the task, that will be covered by the province. And then you asked about helicopters.
Yeah.
So if we require an air asset, we will ask the province for an ASE number, which is an air service emergency
God,
number.
I feel like I'm in a Bourne movie.
Yeah.
Call up the asset.
Call up the asset.
Yeah.
So if we do get an aircraft, that cost is covered by the province.
Yeah.
So it's more so the operating costs on a day-to-day basis that North Shore Rescue needs to pay for. And those costs are around $500,000 a year.
Wow. I
So-
was going to say, do you know the hourly cost for the helicopter?
The hourly cost for the helicopter can be $2,000 to $2,600 an hour.
I think that's cheap. I
Yeah.
thought you were going to say 15 grand.
No.
You know,
Well,
yeah.
it really depends. There's fuel costs, there's surcharges for landing, but when we engage the RCMP air asset, I'm not sure what the cost is for that. For the Cormorant helicopter, now you're talking some big dollars.
Serious money, the bigger jobs.
Yeah.
On your website, it says that you've been averaging about 90 rescues a year for the last few years.
Yeah, 90 to 100 calls a year.
Yeah, and your website is very clear about don't contact us for an emergency, call 911.
Yeah.
That's the only way to react if you know that something untoward is going on.
Yeah, and that's because the fear is we've had people call our administration line to say that they're lost on Crown Mountain.
Oh my God, hopeless.
So that call, that line is not monitored.
Yes.
So we'll check the messages every once in a while, but again, we're volunteers, so we do our best on that. But yeah, going through the 911 system is the best way to activate us because that gets us the
Now,
fast number.
search and rescue people are human. They're not infallible.
Yes.
So there are also injuries sustained to you folks.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a really good point you bring up because when we're going on a search for somebody, we're not just walking the trails.
Yeah, it's not a casual stroll in the woods.
You're either bushwhacking or
Yes.
you're going down into drainages or gullies or along cliff bands. So you're going in really nasty terrain. And that's really what I want to stress to people that are just going out for a quick hike on the front side of any of our local mountains.
Yes.
Once you get off trail, you're in very steep technical terrain very quickly, and it's getting a lot darker earlier these days, so people need to keep in mind.
Yeah, I got to tell you, on that wonderful experience, 4 days in the Green Mountains in Vermont some years ago, even though I think I was fairly well, I had these hiking boots and I had a lot of poly clothes and so on, I do remember at one point standing at the top of a mountain, I guess.
Yes.
And I was soaking wet. In spite of everything, part of it was sweating, part of whatever. I was soaking wet. I was very tired. I was hungry. And I was told, that's the cabin. And I was looking, I would say it felt like a 70-degree angle down. Maybe it was more gentle.
Yes.
And I almost started crying. I just started coming unglued. Because I was exhausted. And that's what must happen to people. Of course, we did get our way down. We did get to sit in the cabin, and nobody broke down. We had a nice lunch, and we moved on. But that must be what starts to happen to you if you get lost up there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of brings up another topic, charging for rescue. That's something that we have a strict policy against. And the reason for that is when someone's in that situation, such as you were, where you're starting to break down, the last thing we want them to do is to worry about a cost to getting rescued. Because what they will try to do is self-rescue. By doing that, they're going to go downhill into most likely a drainage gully or into cliff-bound terrain, and they're going to get hurt. And when they do that, that puts us further in danger when we try to get them.
That subject is controversial,
Yeah.
Of whether or not North Shore Rescue should charge, or any rescue service should charge. And I think the reason it's controversial is because at least once a year,
Yeah.
we'll have an incident of sheer blind arrogance and stupidity.
Yeah.
People just being so cavalier.
Yeah.
And the public reads this over the morning paper, and you say, well, that fool should pay for that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It's not going to happen with us, I can tell you. It's not worth it. Again, it puts us further at risk, and that goes against.
it puts you further at risk.
Yeah.
Why does it put you further at risk?
Because they'll delay phoning us until it gets
It's
dark.
all about the delays,
It's
right?
about the delay, and
Yes.
it's about them getting further into steep and technical terrain.
Which means you have to go into
We
more
have to go into
dangerous.
that.
Yes.
And most likely they're going to get injured as well in doing that.
And then rescuing somebody after that is no longer a story of leading someone out by the hand.
That's right.
It's carrying them out on a gurney or something, or
That's
on a,
right.
on a yeah.
Or recovering their body.
Ouch.
So it just, that's why we encourage people to call us early.
What's our record for fatalities up there in recent years?
Well, we've had,
They're small but significant.
yeah, absolutely.
Small numbers, but they're real people.
Yeah, we're still looking for somebody on Cyprus. Neville Jewell has never been recovered as well. So,
Wow.
yeah, I mean, it's really sad because we want closure for the families. That's very important to us. But
Yes.
there's only so much we can do. I think sometimes it really puts things in perspective when the families come and they actually look at a map and they see how large the area is in our backcountry.
This is the same dreadful decision that police have to make when a child is kidnapped or when someone just wanders away. And, is at what point, how do you start to assess when you say, well, we can't find this person, we've tried for 3 days?
Yeah.
I think it's the same thing as the people looking for the Malaysian Airlines.
Yeah.
You look over this vast expanse of sea,
Yeah,
not to mention all the fathoms below.
yeah.
At what point? So
Yeah.
how do you make that decision at North Shore?
I think it's very situational. It depends on the current conditions, if it's survivable. If there's a chance of survival, we will continue to look. But
Yes.
when you start to get into some serious weather conditions where it's been snowing for days and
Yes.
that person's not adequately dressed, I mean, they're
Have you had the experience, Michael, where the unit has exhausted its own manpower?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You've gone through is it 40 or 50 people you've got?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and again, we've had calls that have lasted a number of days, 4 or 5 days, and we've engaged teams from throughout the province. And
Oh, really?
yeah, and it gets to a point where everybody's exhausted, and you start to have injuries
Because there are teams like this where in the Kootenays and the Rockies, everywhere.
all over the place. So Squamish,
yes.
Whistler, Coquitlam,
Ah.
Lions Bay, Vancouver Island, Chilliwack, you name it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't even think about all that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a really good relationship with those teams. So we
Yeah.
always cover each other off when someone has a larger task that's been going on for a number of days.
And you can call on people if
Absolutely.
need be.
Yeah.
So, so it's not unusual for you to exhaust your own human resources.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the good story? What's the good part? Tell us the good part. This sounds all a little dire and scary, but you must feel awfully good about finding some people and getting them the heck off that mountain.
Yeah, you know what? I think for a lot of people on the team, it's about giving back to the community. It's
Yeah.
about providing closure for families and providing hope for their loved ones that are lost or injured. I still remember my first rescue, finding somebody in Australian Gully off of Strachan, and just seeing in their eyes, they had given up, but when we arrived there and said, you're going to be okay, it's just like,
Really?
it's so rewarding.
One person,
to see
several
that.
people?
Yeah, one person.
Wow.
Yeah, but I mean,
And what had happened to that person?
That's worth it.
That
So they
person had hurt himself or herself?
So they had gone out of bounds skiing and unfortunately got into Australian Gully, which is a very high frequency area where
Yeah.
people go, but it's also where we've had a number of fatalities. So That's what I was talking about. It's you can get into very dangerous terrain very quickly.
It's an old story. It's only one or two people who will look at the out-of-bounds marker and say, oh, to heck with it.
Yeah.
But those people are going to cost the community and themselves a fortune in time, money, sweat,
Yeah.
right?
They will, and I don't want to criticize these people because they're not intentionally.
I'll leave that to loudmouths like me.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll criticize it. Yeah.
So for us, I mean, it's about making a difference for them and for
Yeah.
their family and being a part of this community and contributing to it.
That's fantastic. You must
Yeah.
feel pretty good about a day's work up there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, good. Michael, thanks so much.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Wonderful stuff.
Okay.
Okay, folks, watch when you go up those hills and on the water. You have to be prepared. So next week, here was a guy who's prepared, Phil Eastwood from the Fior Group Training. He has written a delightful small book called From Handcuffs to Handshakes. And it's his story about being a cop, first in London, England, and then here in New Westminster. And now he does training, teaching people how to mediate situations. Delightful book, an interesting guy. It's going to be a lot of fun. So thanks for being with us this week. We look forward to seeing you again soon here on Shaw Community Television, Cable 4. Good night.